Well, hello. This is Karen Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to the Wrastlin Wrantz project. Whatever the promotion, we're here to learn and discuss. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes of wrestling discussion with your hosts, Shugo and James.
Welcome back to the Wrastlin Wrantz project. We're fresh off of Impact's Hard to Kill and AEW's Dynamite this week, and James and I are itching to talk about it. So look out for our predictions for WWE's Royal Rumble next week as well. So without further ado, let's jump right in. How's it going today, James?
It's going crazy today. This week has just been relentless, but I'm still here. I'm still alive, so we keep going.
Well, that's a good thing that you're still alive, because, I mean, it would be pretty lonely here without you.
You'd just be talking to the void.
Hello, void. Me and the void will become best of friends.
Anyway, how are you, Cody? Anyway,
I'm not too bad here today. What did you think of last night's Dynamite?
A mixed bag, to be honest. Very interesting feelings during it. Some great moments, but some also not so great moments. How about you?
I had an overall good time. I mean, there was a few things. I mean, I know a lot of people complained about botches here and there, but you know, I think when it comes to botches, as long as the show is keeping a good pace and the storylines are going, you know, as they should, and I think, you know, botches happen everywhere. Nobody's perfect. But other than that, I mean, we see botches all the time in every wrestling company. It all depends on how you handle them. You know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But one thing I just want to start off with the podcast and talking about is that feel-good match that opened up Dynamite with -1's birthday. I thought that was absolutely adorable.
It was a lovely way to start the show. It was knowingly cheeky by the way that they're doing this. Yes, it's -1's birthday. Yes, he's a child, but come on, humor him. His father passed away less than a month ago, so allow him to have this time and to have a bit of fun with people that care about him. And yeah, great fun. Luther was it's the most I've seen of him for a long time, and he came across well. And yeah, it was a great fun match, and they did put story into it as well, so it wasn't like it was wasted space. So yeah, great gesture and a very, very funny ending.
Yeah, I'm liking -1 going around with the kendo stick. It's pretty funny.
The kendo stick and the papers.
Yeah.
As well. A nod to his dad. But yeah, the whole proposal John Silver did to Adam Page at the end of the match. So if you don't know, Adam Page teamed up with the Dark Order, and the Dark Order asked him to join. And John Silver got down on one knee and posed the question. And Adam Page said no. The Hangman can't join the Dark Order because he's been in a group before and it didn't go so well. Cue yes, he said yes, and celebrations, and there was a bloke dressed up as a cowboy that they had to usher back into the backstage, and cake and party streamers. It was very funny seeing all the stuff that they had ready for him.
Yeah, it was, and I like how the fact that Adam Page, you know, he did touch upon that, you know, there was a little bit of storyline seeds, and the fact that, you know, he grabbed that bottle of alcohol on his way out and he went down the heel tunnel. Now, I don't know if that is Adam Page, you know, being a heel or anything, because as we have established, mostly in AEW, we have that heel tunnel and we have the face tunnel. But then one of the things I really love about AEW is that we can have heels versus heels. We can have face versus faces, and it all works out in great character development.
I think it reflects on how Adam Page feels about himself. Like, he knows the Dark Order have been nice to him, but he can't accept them. So he feels like he's a heel. At the end of Kenny Omega's match against Jon Moxley, which side did Kenny Omega go down?
Yeah.
He went down the face side because he saw himself as the good guy. So yeah, just because Adam Page has gone down the heel side, don't necessarily look into it and say, well, he's a heel now. It's the way AEW do stuff. It's not black and white, as you say. We've had heels against heels and faces against faces. And like the Cody TNT matches were, sometimes we had faces against faces, and it worked because it just does. So yeah, it's interesting story points again. So we see how this develops. Will the Dark Order try again to get Adam Page in? It keeps it all rolling. I know when I was watching the match, I sent you a message and I just said they need to have this trios title introduced because I want to see Adam Page and Reynolds and Silver team up because they've got some chemistry working there. They're really good. That buckshot into the cutter and the finishing off of the match, fantastic.
Yeah, what is it? Is it Alex Reynolds and John Silver?
Alex Reynolds and John Silver, yeah.
Yeah. They have some good chemistry between them too, and I have to applaud that too. It's like not everybody. A lot of people think that the Dark Order is just like the Dark Order and they're just the kind of there, but those two as a tag team actually have a lot of chemistry, and Adam Page fit right in there. So I mean, the trio title could definitely work regardless if Adam Page is involved or not, because there's so many people in the Dark Order. But at the same time, I think I'd like to see Adam Page build himself up as a solo star.
Oh yes, that's the eventual point for him. But I think as kind of like a side mission, he might get distracted with the trios for a bit, be part of a gang, have a bit of fun, and then look and see the big bad at the top of AEW and think maybe I should actually sort that out. So yeah, I think long term wise, that's Page's goal, is to get the title off the big bad Kenny Omega. But yeah, a little side distraction, keep the wheels rolling with him and keep him on screen as well.
For sure. I mean, after that segment was over, I think we moved into Sting and Darby Allin coming out.
Yes, a bit sort of spinning the wheels here for me. After Sting's great bit of physicality prior to this, we're back again to talking and not much really going on, which it's starting to get to the point where it's like, come on, we need to get this moving now. We seem to be stalling a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks I've been talking about this with the few friends that I have, with a couple of friends I watch Dynamite with every week, and we've been all saying the same thing. And I know some people online have been saying it as well. It's like for the past 5, even 6, maybe even 7 weeks, it's been Sting, Darby Allin coming out, Sting, Darby Allin coming out, and not really much happening. And regardless if Taz interferes or not, it's still the same thing back and forth. And as we know, the law of diminishing returns, we need something else to add to it. So at least at the end of this segment, we did have Sting and Darby potentially planning a street fight with Team Taz. We don't know what members are going to be involved, and we also know that Sting can't really take many bumps, but given that it's a street fight, it could be a cinematic match, it could be pre-recorded, they can get away with stuff like that, and all he has to do is go around and with that bat and not get hit too many times.
My big fear is that they're building to Revolution with this, and Revolution's in February, so we've got another month possibly of build, which this feud definitely doesn't need another month for. We've got it's not Bash at the Beach, what are they calling it? Beach Break, beginning of February, which is in 2 weeks. They could do it then, but we've got the wedding, so that's the big thing. I think the wedding's happening that day, so yeah, my back of my mind, I'm just concerned when this match is going to happen. I'm up for it right now, but in a month's time, they're going to have to just keep feeding me some nice stuff and snippets to get me really hungry.
Honestly, I think we're going to get it at Beach Break. I mean, if I'm wrong, we'll find out in 2 weeks. But I think Beach Break's going to be a good, solid 2 hours. I mean, the card's already shaping up. We're going to talk about it later, but I mean, we have Jon Moxley teaming up with Rey Fenix and Pac versus the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega to continue that feud. We have Dr. Britt Baker feuding with Thunder Rosa, and we have the wedding, of course. So there's a few things that have already been adding up to that. So throwing that cinematic match in there for those 20 minutes or whatever, I think it'll fit perfectly. And then maybe after that, we can just move forward with maybe Darby Allin defending that TNT championship, probably maybe against Ricky Starks or something. But what I would like to see, though, and I mentioned this before, they had a perfect storyline there waiting, and I can't believe they didn't do it. And it was when Taz came out, he complained about the FTW championship not being relevant and important. And, Cody came out and they had that spat back and forth. And I would have loved for Cody to get that FTW championship off of Brian Cage and then make the title relevant, and Taz would be just as pissed because now the championship is relevant, but it's on the wrong person.
It's on the wrong guy. Yeah.
And as we know, Cody can't be the AEW champion right now because of what happened last year with MJF. Or was it 2019? The whole last year's been a blur.
It was end of 2019. Yeah, it feels like it should have been last year, but no, it was the end of 2019 with the loss to Jericho. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I thought there was a good storyline there to promote the FTW championship, because honestly, at this point to the audience, unfortunately, it is just there. It's not really doing much. I know Brian Cage defended it a few times. I think maybe twice on Dark and maybe one of the main shows. I can't fully remember, but the fact I can't remember only proves my point. So, I would love to see that FTW championship get some importance around it, get some relevancy.
Yeah, I feel foolish because I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday I found out what FTW stands for, and I really feel like I should have known that before.
Well, why don't you tell the audience what it means?
I don't want to have a potty mouth.
It's all right, go for it.
It means F the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And I literally sat there for a second and went, how did I not? What? Why did I not? I thought it was some sort of federation. I thought it was like Taz's pretend federation that he'd made up years ago. I hadn't really looked into it. I feel so foolish. And everybody will say, God, James doesn't know a bloody thing about wrestling. And I'll be like, well, no, sometimes I have blank spots and some stuff can be sitting right in front of your face and you can't see it. And there we go. So, yeah.
If someone told me that I didn't want, pay attention or enough attention to wrestling because I didn't know what the FTW championship meant, I'd be like, man, nobody across the planet even barely knows exists.
It's not a recognized belt.
Yeah, it's sitting on Brian Cage's stomach there every single week, and it's just like it's part of his clothing line at this point. Like, it's just there. So I mean, apologies to the internet world and to the wrestling community that I can't get behind something or notice something that isn't really having any attention towards it.
You know what? FTU. Ha. Doesn't work, but there you go.
I mean, would you like that feud to continue between Darby Allin and Ricky Starks?
I think so. I think that's the logical step. But you then, how many defeats can Taz's group take before they start becoming the guys that have all the talk and all the pretend aggression and start losing that? I'd want to see them maybe lick their wounds and go after somebody else, maybe go after Cody for a bit or something like that, or the Nightmare family, should I say, rather than Cody directly, because you've got Dustin and QT that can eat some losses and make the rest of the Taz family look strong again, and then go back to the Darby things. I struggle with Darby to see where the TNT, he's only defended it once, which, considering Cody was defending it each week, feels maybe not each week that you have to have him defend it, but at least every couple of weeks or a couple of times a month have him defend it, because it's meant to be effectively their TV type championship. So, but it has been the Christmas period. You can give them that, I suppose. But yeah, I struggle to see where we go next with Darby after the Taz stuff is finished. It all depends on what Sting is up to. When Sting came and announced himself, he was very interested in Darby. And it felt like there was a bit more than just being a fan of his and seeing him as a little stinger. It was more, I'm interested in what's going on here. I'm interested in maybe what you've got around your waist or something like that. But yeah, I'm intrigued still. This is the thing. AEW builds stories and they hook you in and they keep you hooked. And I trust their process enough to allow them to do what they need to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, so far they've been keeping me well entertained for the past year. I mean, has there been segments where I'm like, oh, I don't know about this? Yes. But have I been paid off? Yes. So, I mean, there's been lots of stuff where, I'm not bored. I'm never bored. Like, am I behind every single segment that happens in AEW? No, nobody is meant to do that, right? It's kind of like a variety show of wrestling, but like every other wrestling show. But I'm not bored. I'm not sitting there going, oh, okay, I'm just watching this because I need to have notes in my podcast, or stuff like that. I'm engaged throughout the whole show from start to finish, regardless if it's a wrestler that I'm behind or that I'm not really behind. It's just a good show all around.
Oh, definitely. Although, I mean, I don't know about you, but last night's Dynamite felt more sports entertainment, WWE-esque than any Dynamite before. I don't know if you felt that.
I didn't really fully feel it, but what I can say, though, and I'm not trying to stick up for AEW against WWE or anything like that, but with WWE, the only thing that they have consistent is not being consistent, which is funny. So I mean, if AEW has like a lower episode or like a cooler episode, not as hot as it usually is, I feel that's just like sprinkling seeds. They're starting new stories. Like even last night, we had a lot of backstage stuff between Kenny Omega and the Elite. And I felt that was great. I loved every single segment of that throughout the show. It kept me engaged. It kept me wanting more. It kept me wanting to know what's going to happen at Revolution or at Beach Break. I was very, very engaged by that. I was engaged with Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer for next week. I was engaged when they announced the women's tournament that's going to be starting soon. And I was definitely engaged in the Inner Circles tag team battle at the end of the night as well. So I was constantly engaged. Like even a shout out to Jungle Boy versus Dax Hardwood next week. I think that's going to be interesting as well. But I can totally understand that it was one of those cooler episodes, and not every episode can be as hot as last week's. But when it comes to comparing AEW to WWE, what I look for is how do I feel each week? Is everything making sense? Is everything consistent? Is there good character building? I mean, one thing that I will always say right now until it gets fixed is the big thing that lacks in AEW is the women's development. So hopefully, 2021 will be the year where the women really get to shine and things pick up there. But I mean, we have AEW working with Impact. Private Party is the number one contender for the Impact Tag Team Championships. We have two heel tag teams going at it now with the Good Brothers and Private Party. But then everything is also layered. We have the Good Brothers, like I mentioned before with Kenny at Beach Break, and then they're over on Impact with Private Party, and then Private Party is doing stuff on AEW, and then we have the NWA showcasing a lot as well. So I think everything still is wrapping up really, really nicely, and it's completely normal for it to have a cooler episode and a hotter episode.
Yeah, I'm not saying AEW is WWE because it had a cooler episode. It definitely did.
For sure.
Last night.
Yeah.
It's more the presentation of bits and pieces. So the Kenny Omega stuff in the house with the Young Bucks, and Alex Marvez was just randomly there. And it was a nod to the invisible camera that WWE does a lot of. Definitely a nod to that. But so much of a nod that it ate itself. Because it just felt so staged and so phony, which has a place in BTE, but it didn't feel right in Dynamite itself. And unless, so the whole situation with Don Callis insisting that the camera be put down by the cameraman, but it's still running, I trust the process. I feel that that's going to play into the storyline later on, because Don Callis obviously was seen later in the episode beaten up, and we heard him saying stuff along the lines of "Don't attack me" when the camera was blank. It didn't feel like it belonged in Dynamite the way that they've set the show up for the past year or so. And another thing that struck me as well was during the Cody match, where we had the walk-in by Jade Cargill. Literally, as soon as the match started, Cody was against Peter Avalon. Cody had said, "I'm going to beat Peter Avalon in a minute." Then the music of Jade Cargill comes up, and he does that thing where you just stop in the ring. And that is a very WWE trope. Incredibly much that it became annoying with that company. If Cody is determined to beat Peter Avalon in a minute, he should finish that match off and then go, okay, what does Jade Cargill want now? And then the match with Peter Avalon went on for 10 minutes. There was that was a mess of a match for me, and it didn't feel AEW. It felt very overthought and overproduced and overdone, and that made me think WWE with that, because it was a minute's content produced in 10 minutes of episode time, which we could have used elsewhere because we had a rushed finish at the end of the show.
Yeah, I mean, you make really good points there, and I can totally see where you're coming from. And I felt a little off about that match as well. I know the whole looking at the Titantron and seeing somebody, hearing somebody's music play and getting distracted and everything, that's more of a universal wrestling concept. I mean, New Japan does it, Ring of Honor does it, WWE does it, AEW does it, and it kind of makes some people look dumb, I will admit. I think what happened was he might have missed his cue. But at the same time, I don't think it needed to go 10 minutes, especially with Peter Avalon. No offense to him. I mean, he's been definitely racking up wins on Dark. But I think the last time we saw Peter Avalon was either early 2020 or 2019 on Dynamite. So to have Cody Rhodes go out there, say, I'm going to beat him in 1 minute, almost do it, but then he gets kicked he gets punched in the nuts by Peter Avalon, I figured the right move of action there would have had Peter Avalon get the one over for Cody. Like, he's not the champion right now. He can easily take a loss, and it would be Jade, screwing him over, which I thought that would make the feud, get more thick. But I don't think it went that way. I mean, I kind of laughed when he was in the figure four and he didn't want to get slapped in the face, so he tapped. I kind of laughed at that. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I don't think it needed to go that long. And I don't know. I didn't think it needed to get Peter Avalon involved. Like, I figured if Jay was going to interfere in the match and, screw Cody over, and Peter Avalon gets that kick in the nuts or hit in the nuts like he did, that would have been the better story, I think. And then facing him for 10 minutes afterwards didn't really exactly make Peter Avalon look strong. It made him look very weak, because not only could he not win by punching his opponent in the nuts, but he tapped out because somebody didn't want to slap him in the face. And I get that as his character. That's kind of funny, but I don't think it did anything for Peter Avalon at all. And as we both know, when two wrestlers are in a feud, we want them both to walk away with a little bit of ups.
Yeah, it made Peter Avalon look stupid as a character in a wrestling context, because if you're that concerned about your face, why are you a wrestler? and straight away you start picking at it, and it starts falling to pieces. I think, yeah, there was wasted time. Like, you could have played that and you'd chop it down to 5. If you want to show Peter being a bit sneaky, that's okay. But like they were making a big deal of Cody being bigger. He's bulked up. He's put on 90 pounds of muscle in the past 3 weeks or something, which is insane. If he's been doing that, that is crazy build. I mean, I've been building up like that since Christmas, but it's not muscle, unfortunately. But yeah, and then the time could have been put elsewhere. I mean, there was a small announcement. You mentioned earlier the women's division and building the women's division. The women's tournament, really, it was a small announcement, but the graphic for it has me intrigued because we have the American flag and the Japanese flag. Now, of course, Shida is Japanese, but could we be getting more of the Japanese wrestlers from the women's side coming across again?
I was wondering that exact same thing. I'm wondering if they're going to be involving Stardom from Japan. But I mean, we already know. I think it's Yuka Nagasaki, or I haven't seen her in so long.
Yuka Sakazaki. Yeah. The magical girl.
Yes, the magical girl. We have Riho and we have Hikaru Shida, and I think there might be one more. I can't remember. We haven't seen her on, and I could be wrong.
Emery Sakura, the Freddie Mercury impersonator.
Yeah. So I mean, we already have a few from there, but if they're going to be having people from the U.S. and people from Japan entering this tournament and building it up, now there's a lot of brackets within that tournament, and I was like, wow, okay. So this got me thinking: are we going to be keeping Hikaru Shida champion post Revolution? Because we're not going to be able to get that many matches on Dynamite until Revolution, unless they involve them in Dark.
I suspect we'll have some of the lesser matches on Dark. I think because of the way the women's division is, they might even have a separate show like they did for the women's tag team tournament. Because I've noticed on Being the Elite, Chris Statlander's been in the back quite a bit regularly. So I reckon she's on the way back. So that's a great way to bring her back into it and to reheat her, because what was it, a year ago she was on top of the world, and then they had, it's more than a year ago now, they had the match between her and Rio, and that's failed because they tried to push the Nightmare. I can't remember what it was. The Brandy Rose
Nightmare
Collective. That's it. I wanted to say Collective, but it didn't seem right. They put that into the match and it overcomplicated it all. So yeah, and I don't think Chris Statlander's been on a run like that for a while afterwards. So, and then she got injured. So yeah, Chris Statlander back. You've got obviously the women involved last night. Penelope Ford. I know she wasn't meant to be in the match last night, but she looked like she hadn't wrestled for months, because she hasn't. She just looked like she'd lost that step when she took on Shida All Out. And yeah, that's not her fault. That's more, I don't think she has wrestled in that time, and she may have taken a back seat from wrestling for now. With the wedding coming up, I don't know. There's green shoots of promise with the women's division, and they do seem to have a bracket ready, a big bracket where we're going to have a tournament, and everyone likes a tournament.
Yeah, shout out to the Penelope Ford and Layla Hirsch match, because I actually thought that was kind of decent. Layla Hirsch can really go. I was glad to see her go. She kind of reminds me of a smaller Ronda Rousey at times, honestly.
Yes.
And I hope to see more of that. I don't know how they're going to develop her character. I don't know where it's going to go, but she's definitely got something there. She really put on a good performance last night on Dynamite.
Hirsch, they play on the legit side of her. Like, she could hurt you. It doesn't matter that she's 4'11". I mean, she's shorter than I think the top ring rope, which is a visual, but you would not mess with her. She has got power, and yes, she's going to go far. She's somebody that will build and build as she gets more experience. How it would have gone against Nyla Rose last night, that is intriguing. That is a match I want to see in that women's division. And they've got obviously Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker fighting in a couple of weeks, which are probably their top 2 stars if Thunder Rosa is an AEW star. We don't really know what the situation is with her. So yeah, there are shoots of recovery and hope. It's just trying to build that experience, I think, for the lesser known women in that division, because they're only getting 1 match a week on Dynamite, and it's during, obviously it's always before the main event as well. So we only get that those 10 minutes for the women to sort out, and we know why. It's well documented why it's that slot, because they're not experienced enough and they need to build it up. And yeah, it's getting there. It is getting there, but we'll see how that championship goes and how they create, because a tournament, they can build feuds as well.
Yeah.
So whether we see a bit more Jade Cargill as well in that tournament, because she looks the part. I've never seen her wrestle though, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Now, one thing I wanted to address on this podcast about Dynamite was Kenta possibly interfering with Jon Moxley at some point. Now, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know even if it's going to happen, but we've been talking about that possible door opening with New Japan and where it might be going. And now we have Kota Ibushi, the double champion. We have Kenny Omega. Both the Golden Lovers are both the champions now in both respective companies. And Jon Moxley is the IWGP US champion from New Japan, if nobody knows that. And Kenta is the number 1 contender for that. And on Wrestle Kingdom, he cut a promo video, a pre-recorded video, Jon Moxley did, of saying that, hey, you got to come through me. I'm still the baddest guy around. I'm still the US champ, blah, 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 stuff like that. So I'm wondering if this whole beach break thing might be a little bit involved in it. A lot of people have been talking about if Kenta will invade AEW at all, because he's also part of the Bullet Club. And now they've been tossing around the Bullet Club name too, especially in Impact Wrestling, and coming out with the shirts on. So the only thing I'm wondering with Kenta and Jon Moxley is the global pandemic. I know you have to self-isolate for 14 days before you travel somewhere, and then you have to self-isolate when you get there as well. So that's a lot for Jon Moxley to do if he's involved in Dynamite tapings every single week, unless they want to, tape a couple of weeks and then get him to self-isolate, go over to Japan, and drop off the title there at if someone wins it from him. But with New Japan doing, I think it's New Japan Strong or something, they're coming to America television very, very soon. I'm thinking that it makes more sense for Kenta to come over and make that happen. But I'm not sure. What do you think about all that?
I agree with you more and more. We've noticed the mentions of New Japan over the past month or so. The Bullet Club is getting named, as you say, on Impact, the T-shirts. I was amazed to see Kenny wearing a Bullet Club T-shirt at the weekend. I didn't think he was allowed to do that anymore.
Same.
But clearly there is a deal in place. They mentioned Bullet Club by name on Dynamite last night as well, which is not what they were doing maybe a week or so ago. They kept calling them the club or bits and skirting around the name. So also there was something mentioned. I saw Lance Archer's jacket he wore last night is a New Japan jacket or something that somebody picked up on. I only heard the news, and unfortunately it's been a busy day, so I can't remember which group it is in New Japan, but apparently he had a New Japan jacket on, which again is not there. AEW is the company that puts every little detail out there for you.
Yeah.
It was no coincidence that Raven was in the audience when we were waiting for the Exultant one. Oh, he happens to be there in the audience. Ooh, what's he doing there? They just always put little bits and pieces, and it could be a red herring, but the amount that we're seeing right now, and the hope as well that there is this collaboration between, well, we've got Impact already, There's clearly a relationship there. AEW, New Japan. You start building up this, and you've got, as you said, the Golden Lovers. Kenny's after all of the titles. Does he win the Impact Championship and then go, well, there's only one place I can go now other than the obvious place? I've got to go back to Japan. And then he's got all the belts from every organization apart from the big WWE. It's all lining up into place. It's getting people like you and me excited because we're putting the stuff together and we're generating content. We're generating tweets and social media impressions for all the companies. They're loving this. This is a brilliant opportunity for them all. And I'd like to see the Jon Moxley stuff happen. But then we keep building to in 2 weeks' time. And there's a lot to happen on that show if it happens. But yeah, that's the whole point of it. You're meant to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, and are they going to keep Jon Moxley from defending the U.S. Championship all the way up until Revolution? Because that's almost 6 weeks away. That's another 6 weeks that New Japan doesn't have the U.S. title or isn't being talked about, So, and again, Kenta is also part of the Bullet Club. Yeah. So there's so many layers. I mean, what was it? 2 months ago, I was sitting here, fantasy booking my ass off about Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega, and now it's actually kind of coming more and more of a reality, especially with his win at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, they're becoming closer and closer, and I watched during the Christmas period. I watched the Revolution tag team match, and if you watch that now, with all the knowledge of what happens to Kenny and Adam Page during last year, you see all the little bits that Kenny, the Young Bucks, and Hangman are all doing, and it all ties into what's happening now. It's crazy. Like, they are, as we said, the small details company, and there's a reason they are so good at building these things, because they put these things in that they can reference later. And yeah, we could very easily have an alliance between all these companies. Like, a year ago, if you said, oh yeah, in a year's time, Impact and AEW will be working together very closely. Kenny Omega will be appearing on Impact Wrestling, and he'll be on a pay-per-view. You'd go, no, I can't see that.
I'd get slapped.
Yeah. Nobody would like Matt Hardy. A year ago, Matt Hardy was still in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And if you said he would appear on Impact, you'd go, oh yeah, probably, maybe it all ends for him at WWE. Oh yeah, he's also working for AEW. What? Like, it just, this company in the past year has gone from doing a great job to an excellent job. And so long as they don't lose that focus and that size of it all, who knows what could happen? The big stuff that we dream about could happen.
Yeah, it totally could. And I mean, before we end things here, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Impact Harder to Kill, because that match with Kenny Omega, Rich Swann, the Good Brothers, and Moose was incredible. The Spanish Fly that Moose and Kenny Omega did off the top rope, I really, really enjoyed Hard to Kill from start to finish. It was a lot of fun, especially that tag team match at the end of the night. I mean, I can only imagine, who do you think Kenny Omega is going to take the belt off of if he does? Will it be Moose or will it be Rich Swann?
I suspect it'll be Rich Swann, just because of the size difference. Because Kenny is calculating. He's not going to put himself at risk of losing. Moose is the bigger guy. So Kenny will take it from Rich Swann, and then he'll claim his title, and say, well, I'm your champion. Unless he goes for both.
It could. I mean, I don't know if they're going to bring both titles together or not with the whole feud between Moose and Rich Swann. But that leaves many questions up in the air. So with that, we will wrap things up. How's that sound?
It sounds like a perfect point. Otherwise, we'll be going on for a lot longer. So there's so much to talk about in wrestling right now. We barely mentioned WWE. Royal Rumble next week.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing predictions with that. So look out for that. So thanks to everyone who continues to listen to the podcast. And thank you to everyone who got us over 250 followers now on Twitter. And of course, if you want to hear your voice on here, simply send me or James a PM on any of our social media. You can find all of our socials at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod. And for the independent music side of things, you can look up Lotus M Productions on Instagram, and you can search us as well under YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. With that, this has been LMP Wrestling, and we are signing off.